Hello, you wonderful people, and welcome to another episode of Not Too Comic Book. This being a show where I talk about TV shows that are adaptations of comic books. For today's episode, I'm going to talk about the latest episode of Legends of Tomorrow. It's finally complete. My DC lineup, all my DC shows are back, and just the lineup is complete now with the return of Legends of Tomorrow. Okay, technically it's not. Because really depending on the whole, scheduling and everything, and whether, they're done with it or not. iZombie, it being a Vertigo property, technically being under the umbrella of DC. So technically when it comes back, it'd be like a full thing. But nevertheless, I'm just super happy to have Legends back. And a very interesting opening episode. I was really shocked. It's like, oh, Oliver, special guest starring in the first episode. That's pretty cool. We ended up getting introduced to a new character, which I kind of got a little spoiled. Like, there's at least, this is kind of a spoiler, but there's at least, that I'm aware of, at least one other person that joins the team. Because I knew that I had a feeling like the Hawks weren't going to return this season. So I'm wondering, will we kind of see them pop up or not? Obviously Captain Cold, Snart being, dead and everything. So still bummed out about that, but, So, like I said, maybe we'll get, I know there's at least one more person, but, maybe we'll get, another person kind of complete the entire team, kind of make up for both Hawks being gone and Snart. But we got introduced to Dr. Hayward. I didn't catch his first name. He described himself as a time detective. That he's the one that kind of pieced it together, little things are changing here and there in history, which is kind of, miraculous to me. To me, that kind of shows that he's something special, because, for one, it's how do you recognize time is changing? Because, shouldn't it be time is changing, but everyone remembers it a certain way? But maybe, I don't know, because it wasn't brought up, but it's once history changes, unless you're in a special bubble, you won't realize, oh, history is supposed to be this way. Because everyone will remember a certain way. Because obviously with them, they're the ones changing time and stuff like that. Because that's something that hasn't come up. You changing history hasn't changed, how old things worked out. Their mind of oh, this is how things worked out in history, but them changing things even slightly. Because there hasn't been any drastic changes they've made to the timeline. But because Hayward only found little bits and stuff here and there, and he wouldn't have noticed it. His words exactly if he hadn't gotten someone else's help to kind of really break it down for himself. I guess, I don't know. It's just, I'm curious to see what his role is. I just the fact is that, the whole situation. Because I thought we were going to start off with that whole, how season 1 ended with, Rex telling them, oh, you're going to die or something. It's okay. So I thought we were going to start there, but it's nope. The moment we're joined back with him, it's yeah, they went back to 1942 and apparently got exploded by an atomic bomb. It's wait, what? You have the entire episode being kind of Mick kind of retelling the events. So basically, it's been 6 months since season 1's finale. They've been kind of going around time trying to fix some things, because apparently there's someone going through time kind of screwing with history a little bit, arming people with certain weapons. Because, for example, at the beginning, we saw them kind of in France, and I just love it. We had Ray and Firestorm kind of using their powers and technology in front of people, and that's a big no-no. It's I thought we promised not to do anything like that. And you had Sarah kind of quote-unquote seducing the queen, even though she's supposed to be hooking up with her husband, the king, so they can consummate and just kind of basically keep the timeline going. But she was basically no, I didn't make a move on her. She made a move on me. But it's still Sarah is it's just I really like that about Sarah. She's unabashedable. It's hey, if ladies hitting on me, hey, I'm going for it. I'm going to turn her down. She's hot and everything. She's hitting on me. What would you expect me to do? Even Jax is making fun of her. It's oh, I bet you warned her. I was because she was oh, your wife is waiting for you in bed, and then Firestorm's oh yeah, I bet you warned her up, didn't you? She's shut up. I just really love that. It's just kind of because, cementing more that kind of little bit of a, that family that they kind of created for themselves. It's kind of this team, and I just loved it. And I love how it just pointing out everyone messing up here and there, and you kept hearing Mick being well, I didn't do anything wrong. You told me, hey, they brought their technology. I left my weapon on the ship, so obviously I didn't do anything wrong. I didn't screw up like everyone else did. And then Rip goes over and pulls out some jewels he stole. He's hey, stealing isn't screwing up, Because, we find out, they are trying to replace the Time Masters. Someone has to exist to kind of keep the timeline in check, and they've kind of taken the responsibility upon themselves. But what I found even most interesting about this episode was, I mean, kind of like a big thing being Sarah's side of the story, basically being like her main reason for coming along isn't just protecting the future and whatnot. It's about making sure that she gets revenge for her sister. Like, she's been spending these past 6 months trying to track down Dark. She knows that he, part of the, Lazarus pit, so he's, really, really, really old. So she knew she could track him down at different points in time, kill him to get revenge for Laurel. Because, hey, you kill him now, that means Laurel's death is undone. Or at least, I don't know. Like, I'm confused on whether time really, well, I mean, I don't know. Like, the fact is, Savage is dead, but I guess that still doesn't change, like, the points in I don't know how that really works. I guess, like, the points in time they ended up killing Savage in didn't restore the timeline in that regard. Like, I'm still confused on that part, like, why Rip's family isn't back. But I guess it's, like, technically the person they destroyed, like, they attacked him at 3 different points in time, but I guess the main one they ended up destroying was kind of him from the future. So I guess that kind of, to a certain extent, makes sense, because it's like, even if they destroyed him now, basically his family's already been killed by Savage in some shape or form. I know this is something I should have really brought up in, like, the finale and whatnot, but I'm guessing that's why. Like, it's like, because this is Savage going back in time, so basically he's from a future point after he'd already killed Rip's family. And it's like, even if you kill those other Savages at those different points in time, what it comes down to is the fact is things still play out a certain way. Like, because he still ends up killing Rip's family because they haven't come back in time to end up killing Savage in these different points in history. I know I just said it earlier with frequency this week. I'm going to say it again. It's like, time travel, so confusing. Nevertheless, so I don't know. It probably wouldn't change the fact is that Dark killed her. I don't know. Maybe it would, but that's just her main motives. And it led to an interesting thing, like kind of like Ray was like, "Oh, you can't do that. Don't be going out for revenge. We're kind of the new Time Masters, so that's kind of against the rules." But Sarah's like, "We're not the Time Masters. We don't have any rules." But he's like, "Yeah, I'm pretty sure kind of killing, kind of using time travel as a means of personal vengeance isn't the best idea either." And she basically was like, "Oh, what about your significant other? You wouldn't go back in time to try and save her?" And he's like, "Of course I would, but he's just like, that's not the heroic thing." And that just kind of led to him going back and forth, him tearing her down, be like, "Oh, of course you're going to want to kill him. That's just kind of that assassin side of you." And then there was the whole side of her being like, "Well, without your suit, you're basically useless. You're just like a big mouth, perfect person who's rich and stuff like that," because it's like, oh, we can't all be as perfect as Ray, which is like, Ray's flawed and everything, but it's just kind of like, I guess he's just trying to do the honorable thing, trying to be a hero. And I guess he feels like if he uses time travel for selfish reasons, then he's kind of going the wrong path, kind of like, in a sense, almost going against his significant others, like, we'll probably hope for him to be a good person, I mean, that's how I chalk it up. And it was just kind of a side note thing. I just think it was just the coolest thing. It's when they were in France, and then like you have Jax running and jumping off kind of that balcony area, and Stein's below him, and Jax jumps into Stein, and they fuse that way. I was like, that is sick. That looks so freaking cool. And then, but basically, they travel to 1942, even though they're not supposed to. They were warned against it, but they do it nevertheless because it's like, hey, New York is destroyed. But once again, in the show, you realize, time travel works a certain way in this show, being like, time doesn't set in. It takes a little while for the ripple effects to kind of completely come to an end, like for them to actually take effect. So they're like, okay, we still have time to change it. But then Rip's like, let's not forget we supposedly die in 1942 because we were told not to go there. They go anyway. And I really like this show's interpretation of Albert Einstein, just kind of making him a bit of a sleazeball because he's up there squeezing women's butts like, oh, every reaction has an equal and opposite reaction. And he ends up getting mad at Stein. He's like, I was almost about to get those 2 women to come back to my room with me. And just Stein's kind of just like stunned because it's like his hero is kind of in front of him, just kind of a bit of a sleazeball, a womanizer, in fact. And it's just, it's shattering your dreams and expectations. It was kind of interesting that he quickly picked up on the fact that, hey, we're you're time travelers. And it's like, that was pretty cool. But I mean, it was almost sleazy again when you find out, like, oh yeah, he's not 100% the smartest guy that you think he is. It turns out a person that really helped him out a lot was his ex-wife, who he's never really given her credit. Like, he's taken all the credit. It's kind of a silent agreement that they've had. The only two people that know about this whole thing is them. So, they ended up, basically the team decided to change things up to kind of make the timeline a little better. I guess by making it known that it's like, hey, it's not just Einstein, it's the Einstein. So it would be a little harder to kidnap, his wife again, because it's like, oh yeah, because people won't know, because she'll be guarded. Einstein was guarded already, but it's just like no one knew about the importance of his wife, so she wasn't really guarded. No one realized that she was the smart intellectual person that she is. Being like half of like everything that Einstein did, you can only assume she played a large part in it. So it's kind of nice that she finally got the recognition, and it kind of, even it's kind of neat that this. You won't really get too much of a wow, that's how things changed, but it would be interesting to see how things would go. Is like knowing that it's no longer just Albert Einstein, it's the Einsteins, him and his ex-wife, working together, showing being some of the smartest people in history. That's just kind of interesting. But what I really liked is like, obviously we had that whole thing with Sarah going up against Dark, which was pretty awesome. I can only assume at this point in time he didn't have his magic yet because he didn't use it, but still held his own against Sarah. We all knew that wasn't going to go down the way she was hoping it would be. It makes you wonder, like, when you break it down, like, just me nitpicking, like, is Oliver better at fighting than Sarah is? Like, I would have thought she'd been able to handle Dark, but I don't know. It kind of blows my mind that, she was trained by the League of Assassins, but, Oliver's been trained by different people, and I guess he was, trained a lot longer than Sarah was. Sarah had been trained for, like, 4 years, maybe? Oliver's been kind of training for, like, 5 or more, so I guess he kind of had the upper hand in that regard. I don't know. Just saying, because she wasn't able to take Dark down, but Oliver was. It's just one of those situations where it's like, it's just already new. It's like, there's no way the show is going to let you get your vengeance now. But I'm very curious to see, like, what would happen if she did kill Dark? Would it be a situation where it's like, okay, he's no longer alive to cause problems? Would that kind of reverse a lot of this? Because if she did, though, because that would also mean reversing a lot of crap that happened last season on Arrow, too. So it's kind of like, I don't know. It's so interesting having two shows about time travel, this and The Flash, and it's kind of like how they're literally affecting everything. Like I said, I remember I was talking about it. I might have talked about it in Supergirl. Maybe I thought about talking about it. I don't remember if I actually did or not. But it's like, I think Supergirl is the only show so far that might not be affected by... No, definitely won't be affected by anything that happens in these shows just because it takes place on a different Earth. So, because, all these other things... because changing history only affects the particular Earth that it's on, the particular dimension it's in, so... But I was really shocked we ended up finding out, like, oh, basically, the whole team split up because, like, basically it's like, okay, the only way to stop the nuclear missile from going off is by using the Wave Rider to kind of block it, so it doesn't hit the city, it just hits the ship, so... I was like, oh crap, sending everyone to kind of different points in time. That's what I was thinking of, like, the time scatter, whatever that was, like, that's what he told Jax, like, the reason why he was letting Jax kind of know the ins and outs of the ship, understand how things work, is because he knew he wouldn't be on board for long. Whether it's because he decided to leave or something happens to him, he just wanted, just in case that eventuality ever came up, that someone would know how to properly operate the Wave Rider. Now, he talked about something called the Time Scatterer, and he was like, I don't, hopefully it's something he will never have to use. Now, what I'm wondering is that what that was, sending them all to different points in time, or was that something else? He said, like, he had that kind of planned ahead of time. I'm completely missed whether that was a time scatterer or not. If not, that could be very interesting to see what that does in the future. And if it was, then I'm just a complete idiot wasting your time talking about that right now. But nevertheless, I wasn't expecting everyone to get shifted off to different points in time, with the exception of Mick, just because he was injured, and it's like, the time travel would kind of, basically hurt you more, if not kill you. So, I kind of wasn't expecting... I guess because they kind of didn't want to kind of push it, like, because I was thinking like, oh man, we every some of the episodes we spend trying to get everyone back, but it's like, nope, they spent the next couple minutes rounding everybody up within each time period. It makes you wonder how long everyone was there. I mean, you look at Ray's situation because he was running away from a dinosaur, he had a beard and everything. It looks like he might have been there for quite a while. So time and everything. So, Jax and Stein were kind of acting as kind of wizards for some king in England in like the late 800s, and he's just like, I'm bored of you. Off of their heads are like, wait, what? And then finally, Sarah in Salem being hanged for as a witch for, what was the word they used? It wasn't defiling, but it's almost like the fact is like she swayed one of the girls. It's like, dude, she's such a player, like, in my opinion. Like, it's just like Sarah's just like go from one girl to the next. It's just like she's got game. That's all I'm gonna leave it at that. Sarah's got game, dude. She sweeps girls off their feet like it's nothing. It's just like, holy crap. Sadly, that almost got her in trouble, being in that time period. But luckily, everyone showed up and just. Team is finally back together, but now without Rip because we don't know where he is or what he's up to. Like, that's another thing. I was not expecting him to kind of be gone. I was like, wow, really? Rip's not going to be, I guess, most of the season, if not all of it. I guess part of it's going to be like, still trying to save the timeline because we got to stop whoever it is. Because they were like, oh, it's got to be Time Pirates or somebody from the future. Just screw with the timeline. And then it blows my mind to find out, hey, the person screwing with the timeline, it's freaking Eobard, freaking Reverse Flash. I was like, wait, what? Because you had the guy pointing a gun at Dark and like, oh, your partner's not here. And it's like, oh, who said that? And you saw the lines. I was like, his partner's a speedster. No, it can't be. It's freaking Eobard, dude. That is amazing. So it makes you wonder, like, which Eobard is this? Could this be the Eobard that helped Barry come back from Flashpoint? Or what point in time is this Eobard? I mean, the fact is that he is Eobard shows you that it's not Season 1 Flash Eobard where he's disguised as well. So, just the fact of the matter is that he's working with Dark. For one, I'm super excited on multiple levels because for one, Dark being back is awesome because just like Neil McDonough is just, amazing. So glad, because we won't be seeing him any like future seasons of Arrow and stuff like that because he's dead and everything. But this is a way to kind of keep the character alive to a certain extent. So it's like we have these two working together. It's like part of me's wondering is like, will we get other will they kind of form their own team of bad guys? Like, because I've heard stuff here and there about a Legion of Doom. Now, I don't know whether it's a reference to these TV shows or it's just kind of like, referencing the fact of having a Legion of Doom in something. I don't know. But that could be what this could be the beginning of. And it's just, I'm super excited. It's like, dude, what does Eobard have planned? What is him and Dark coming up with? Like, it's so good. I'm so intrigued. That got me super hyped. I was already excited for the rest of the season, but that just got me even more excited. I was like, who's going to be our main antagonist of the season? Because this is one of the shows where it's actually like, yeah, we actually got rid of our main antagonist technically in the first season. Because you take something like Arrow, yeah, like Malcolm's still popping up all over the place, so he was never dealt with. You take Flash, it's like technically Eobard was dealt with, but as you can see, time traveling and everything, it's like he's still going to be a nuisance. Even on future events in the Flash, as well as stuff here and there. I mean, just because of the whole time travel thing, he can pop up at any point. They could use him as many times as they want to, even though he's technically dead. I mean, Supergirl kind of maybe too, because like the Kryptonians were dealt with. So this and Supergirl are the only ones that have kind of dealt with their main antagonists. But once again, time travel and everything. So I don't know whether what they did to Savage will permanently get rid of him from every point in time or not, whether that's true or not, or whether he still exists in some other point in time. For now, it seems like he's completely gone, but you never know, like maybe he still exists in other points in time and they're just trying to, maybe he'll be part of this quote-unquote Legion of Doom. I'm not saying it is going to be a Legion of Doom. I'd be super excited that that's what they're setting up. Just because like a team of evil bad guys versus a team of, these heroes, and it's going to be very interesting to see how this team works together now. I mean, they've had their problems, obviously, but it's going to be interesting seeing how they progress, without Rip there to kind of nag them about, like, don't screw up the timeline. I really was not expecting that whole thing, like Rip going away. Side note, that was pretty awesome. Like when they were basically kidnapping Albert Einstein, when he just like took the guns and like shot those dude and just casually picked up a glass and started drinking and walking away like that. He did it so flawlessly and casually. I was like, that was almost some like James Bond level shit, right there. I mean, at least I was like, whoa, that was kind of cool. And he did it so just like so cool, like. So I don't know. I'm very curious to see what they decide to do with Rip's character. I mean, his main reason for being on this whole adventure was, to try and save his family, but also revenge. So it's kind of like, I mean, that's kind of off the table now that, Savage is gone, possibly. Like I said. And also, I'm very curious about where Hayward kind of plays, like Hayward kind of plays in all of this. Like what role? Like I feel like he's got to be something special. He's just kind of like the historian. Got to be like, yo, some stuff is going down in history. I know history like the back of my hand. We got to go essentially save the future. And I'm wondering, is he going to be kind of more so the like, not there, like, I wonder how he will, because it don't seem like he's leading the team. It seems like now the team is kind of on equal footing. No one's actually 100% taking charge. But, obviously he's got to be like, replace Rip, because Rip had future knowledge on his hands, and now you have the guy who knows the past, like, once again, the back of his hand. So I'm very curious to see what they do with his character, where he ends up when it's all said and done. Like I said, super excited to have Legends back. I'm so excited to find out what like goes down this season. Like I know I keep comparing everything time travel related with everything else time travel related that I'm watching, but I'm expecting some kind of like seeing that first episode made me think of like it makes me think of some Doctor Who level stuff, like some Doctor Who level misadventure, just having fun screwing around in time. Because it's like at first they had their main objective of taking down Savage. That was kind of their main goal, but now it seems like they're going to be, obviously we have our main adversaries kind of set up a little bit, so, but, they're still unknown, so it's just like, they don't really know who they're up against, so they're just going to be going through time trying to fix stuff, and I'm super excited to see what they do, man. I'm so glad to have this back. Like I said, full roster of DC, technically, so, I mean, yes, a full roster of DC, but, like I said, technical about the whole Vertigo thing, but nevertheless, so happy, and I just cannot wait for the next episode. I do apologize that I've just been sitting here rambling. I love how lately I've just been referencing other TV shows when I'm talking about certain TV shows. I sat here talking about Arrow, Flash, and Supergirl, which I know it's all connected. I can't contain my excitement because it's just like there's supposed to be like a 4-way crossover this season, and I can't wait. I want to see everyone come together, and it's just, I'm super excited for it, and it's just, I'm super excited to see what Legends does, because it's just like, obviously a lot of stuff that it's doing is going to affect a lot of stuff, just like what's happening on Flash is affecting everything else. Like, as we know little things here and there about what Flash is affecting, I'm curious to see what kind of things Legends is going to affect, so. But, until the next time we meet, be happy, be safe, live life to the fullest, and enjoy it. Good day and goodbye.